Welcome, Dr. Bala. Good morning to all of you. And just before letting you speak, I will give a brief introduction. Dr. Balachandran is the senior general manager of Vellore Institute of Technology, Technology Business Incubator. So he has been associated with that incubation center like around 17 years. It's a very long time in the ecosystem. And he is also the vice president of ISBA, Indian Startup Incubators and Steps Startup Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Parks Association. ISBA is the largest body, which has got like 400 plus incubation centers associated with it. And ISBA has been providing them support, mentoring, and networking. So Dr. Bala has been playing a very a key role, in bringing up ISBA to this level. So Dr. Bala basically is an engineer, graduate from Bharatiya University, and then he did management science, PhD in management science. Then he was an engineer, then marketing manager, and he had served in different companies. Then he settled as a senior general manager at Vellore Institute of Technology Business Incubator. So with that note, sir, and I don't think anybody is better than Bala in explaining about the ecosystem prevailing in the country. So he would give the bird's eye view of what kind of ecosystem, especially related to entrepreneurship and start. So I would request Dr. Bala, to speak in that line. Thank you, Dr. Bala.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shivkiran, for this opportunity. I also had some time to listen to the closing part of Mr. Naveen Lakur's interesting message. And I don't know whether it was a coincidence. His last but slide spoke about the ecosystem. So it is a seamlessly connecting to the next session. I don't know whether it is by design or by choice, but whatever it is, it makes my job easier to take the mantle from here. So when we speak of ecosystem in the larger biological sense, it is about the forests. So you don't create forests, forests evolve over a period of time. So, but for the sake of convenience, for the sake of understanding, we started speaking about entrepreneurial ecosystems. And so when you look at the startup space, the first and primary ecosystem that comes to everyone's mind is the Silicon Valley ecosystem, which has its own 70, 80-year history to take shape as one of the successful ecosystems. And many governments, which I know I have also seen somewhere in Malaysia, try to replicate that ecosystem, thinking that having those structural elements will lead to promotion of entrepreneurship. But it was a very, very difficult lesson for some of these governments who tried to replicate the ecosystem, because it has several different components, and the dynamics among those components matter a lot. So in this backdrop, the next 20 odd minutes, we are going to discuss certain aspects of the status quo in our country, and what emerged ecosystems have the components which are working so well, and possibly where are those gaps which we have as we discussed today, and and what are the enablers and drivers of these ecosystems. So this is going to be the gist of my talk, and so I'm also sharing a presentation to aid the discussions. Is the presentation visible? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So if we look at the current status quo, at least in India, we speak about the Global Innovation Index. So the government also proudly proclaimed we have entered the top 50 club. This year we were rated 48. No means a simple achievement. It's a collective effort of all the stakeholders in the system. So we were in the 80s, or sometime it was the 60s. So lots of efforts that have gone into have this achievement. So this is also amply supported by the ease of doing business. While most governments take pride in declaring that their systems and processes help people to start a business in 24 hours, wind up a business in 3 days, so help someone to get funding in couple of hours. So all these are enabling building blocks of ease of doing business. So again, if you look at the intent and deliverables, there has been a considerable progress and stride, not only by the central government. There are several state governments who are proactively working like corporates, making PowerPoint presentations with industry houses to attract investments, to set up startup systems. So that means something good is happening across the country. And the other indicator which I would like to point out here is the number of startups. So what used to be 1,000, 1,500 10 years ago across the country, with a few cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, NCR region, and Chennai, and now there has been a democratization of distribution of startups across the country. Almost all state governments are coming forward to set up innovation and incubation systems to promote more number of startups in their region, apart from the massive initiatives of the central government. The next aspect which we may look at is the quantum of fund flow and the velocity of funding. Definitely the trend is very, very encouraging. Every year we see several success stories of the unicorns coming up. On the other day, Prime Minister also was mentioning from 2 or 3 unicorns. We are talking about 39 unicorns as on today. Those things would not have been possible if at every stage of the growth, those companies are receiving appropriate stage-based funding, and the speed at which the funding is also given. It doesn't take 3 years for somebody to raise $1 million today. The idea is meritorious and it has market potential. So the other aspect to look at is the number of innovative products and services that are made available to the society from startups. I would like to quote one particular example which is related to this COVID-19. So March 29th or 30th, DST embarked on a program with the Sina IIT Bombay. ISBA also is a partner in that. So it wanted to launch a COVID-related funding program in order to address the gaps in supplies. You should make a note, at that point of time, people were selling sanitizers for 700 rupees a liter. So that was a scrambling. People were running more with masks, PPE. So most of the things had to be imported, and there was a helter-skelter situation for supplies. So the government wanted to address that, not to mention about the ventilators and other medical diagnostic devices, information systems that were also required to handle the pandemic situation. So to cut the story short, we had 700 applications within a short span of 15-20 days, and finally about 56 companies were funded in the range of 50 lakhs to 2 crores. And most of them have started supplying products to the market, which would not have been possible if this innovation ecosystem had deep roots. The people were ready to pivot. For example, one of our companies, which was in a premium personal care product, Renora Wellness, they were manufacturing shampoo for hard water applications. Most of their products were sold through the salon chains, the reputed salon chains, and they were also present in Amazon, Flipkart. When the pandemic struck, most of these salons were closed, and they immediately pivoted to manufacturing WHO grade sanitizers and disinfectants, and again they succeeded. So the point I would like to highlight is, if there has been a consistent effort in building the systems, processes to promote innovations and entrepreneurship, when the need of the hour comes, people respond swiftly, and it helps the country. Even in normal times, it helps the country to reduce the import reliance. All of you might be aware of the changes happening in the defense procurement and the space technologies. So everywhere the startups and innovative ideas are going to help the country to leapfrog to the next stage. So if you look at the catalysts, as I mentioned, there are several Government of India backed incubation and funding schemes. Even in 2008-9, we had this Technopreneur Promotion Program, which was first of its kind, where government writes a check in the name of an individual innovator, and there were 30-odd TEP outreach centers across the country. But picking lessons from there were several Nidhi programs, Nidhi Seed Fund, Nidhi Prayas for Idea to POC, and Ministry of Electronics has come out with Entrepreneur in Residence, Proof of Concept funding. BIRAC had this very famous Biotechnology Ignition Grant, which funded close to 700 plus innovations, and at least 50 of them are in market, 150 products have been developed. So all these programs, not to leave about the efforts of Atal Incubation Centers under Atal Innovation Mission. So there have been a consistent catalytic effort both from central and state governments. And as a policy also, 2019 has opposed National Innovation and Startup Policy, which will go a long way in shaping the campus innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems. The motivation there, again, the opportunities arising out of digital India, Make in India, self-reliant India. So these are all the access to market opportunities where a startup could register in eGEM portal, the Government of India e-marketplace portal, and even participate in tenders. A lot of other constraints and conditions are getting waived. And last year's budget also spoke about the government procurement from MSMEs for values up to 200 crores. This also throws up lots of opportunity. So again, the grants, the angel networks, what was a meager 100, 200 HNIs coming together and funding the ideas that are liked by them. Now there are formal angel networks almost in every city and across country also. There are several market access schemes. Many companies are looking at startups as innovation providers. So they seek innovations from startups, and this is a very, very good sign as far as India is concerned. Apart from the policy, the government also has incentivized educational institutions to massively promote incubation and innovation. So this area and NIRF ranking, or even in NAC assessments, considerable amount of weightage is given for the institutional performance to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, which is a very, very good trend in the country. And what I've also seen in the last 15 odd years is there is a considerable shift in the cultural and societal acceptance of failures. Earlier, the parents were worried that the children will be left in the lurch if they fail in the attempt, but they are willing to experiment. The spouses are willing to allow the partners to venture into the startups, and they de-risk by supporting them in the initial formative years, which is by and large a very welcome trend in the country. So let us take a pause and look at some of the components of an emerged ecosystem, which will again help us to understand some of the gaps which we need to address and improve further. This is predominantly about the Silicon Valley ecosystem, where you see a dual ecosystem of large firms and startups. So if you look at even companies like Xerox, which have been powerhouse of producing several hundred innovations, using those innovations which were not corely linked to their business of documentation. The companies like Apple, Microsoft, and others have picked those technologies and started their businesses. So if you look at the combined business achievements in terms of market capitalization of these companies who used Xerox technology, Palo Alto Research Center of Xerox, and grown their own ventures several times that of the Xerox's market capitalization. So that's the power of innovation reaching out through unconventional routes of licensing and technology transfer. Those days when the company itself was not interested to take this products into market. So that interplay between large companies which have certain technologies, which eventually they may keep it in cold storage. So if startups are allowed to leverage the innovative power, it will have a multiplier effect. So the other aspect in an emerged ecosystem is the high financial returns. So if you talk of Teslas, if you talk of Apple's, Microsoft's, they talk of trillion-dollar economies, which many cases it would be the economy of some of the countries themselves. So when such an amount of high profit is there, it attracts a lot of people to initiate and experiment and have aspirations to create considerable value for themselves. And the good trend is they are also willing to give away in terms of the global development once they achieve considerable success through their foundations and investments in startups. And so this goes in a perpetual way to fuel innovations. And we also see top level of human resources for all stages of startups. So this is again, it's a cultural element where even a meritorious person is willing to work with a startup and they take pride in pursuing their passion through a startup. The developed ecosystem also has the supportive infra, the business infra of law firms. When somebody wants to start a business, within a couple of hours, you have access to a lawyer, at least in California, to get this firm incorporated, the accounting firms, the mentors. So when such a mature ecosystem offers a good amount of infrastructure, it's easy for founders to stay focused on their core business idea and innovate. No need to mention about the VC firms. There is a competitive market landscape with respect to the venture capital finance. In the initial part, I also mentioned about the quantum of funding and also the velocity of funding, which the Y Combinator's of the world, even when they admit there is a kind of minimum amount of funding is guaranteed to the startup. The other components, there are also human resource clusters anchored around top universities. So people across the world flock these top Ivy League universities and they perform research, they learn from the university systems. And these clusters provide seamless traffic to their neighboring startup ecosystem. So people also talk about the golden triangle, the Boston, Austin Valley triangle, where such a seamless exchange between academia and startup and industry is taking place. We should also pick some cue from the triple helix model of innovation, where the government, industry, academia, there is an active engagement between all the stakeholders on a continuum. So extensive government role in shaping technological trajectories and basic science. So this is again very, very essential. When it comes to private enterprise or large corporates, their focus would be on immediate business priorities and shareholder values. It would be very, very difficult for someone to fund exploratory research and science. But without considerable investments going in basic sciences, exploratory research, and then later converting some of it into application-oriented research, there would be vacuum, there would be some gaps. In fact, as on date, it's only 1.5% of our GDP is being spent on research, and it's mostly from government. Again, not much of private participation, which is a concern as far as India is concerned. The other component is top level human resources for all stages of startups and highly competitive industries, balanced between open innovation and secret protection. So we spoke about the Palo Alto Research Center model of Xerox, which the company was willing to open their innovation repository to willing startups to take them into market. while it provide alternate pathways for the company to monetize their revenue, they also had a strong IP to monetize the value. So there is a subtle balancing act between your protection and opening. Sometimes this open innovation is also a two-way street, where the companies also are willing to receive innovations apart from providing innovations to startups. So we have also seen several companies chose the acquisition route of acquiring innovative companies instead of building everything on their own. So the Googles, Facebooks, we see several such examples. So this is another key element where we are lacking behind. The interaction between industries and the large industries and startups is much to be desired, and we need to work on that. So some other components, again, high labor mobility at all levels of management and talent. There is no lifelong employment, which is fashionable in these ecosystems. People are willing to shift gears, move to other challenging assignments, and continue to contribute. So this helps startups even to acquire somebody who has worked in a large company and seen end-to-end deployment of innovative solutions in the market, to have their wisdom instead of learning everything organically on the fly. This is again most important, the culture of accepting failure. Often this is said in Valley ecosystem, failure is kind of a qualification. It sharpens the CV of the person when they pursue on next set of assignments. So obviously it is a failure for genuine reasons. It's not some willful or integrity issues. Again, while in metros this situation has improved considerably, but across India, a lot more needs to be done on culture of accepting failures. So other component is the technology pump of human resources from all over the world. So once the ecosystem is mature, it is in a position to attract talent from different parts of the globe. The same Techstars, Y Combinator, plug and play, accelerators, they get several thousand applications. And so most universities, when they complete the course, especially people from Asia, China, Korea, India, when they go to these ecosystems, they would like to stay back there and continue to contribute to those ecosystems. So are we in a position to attract top human resources from across the world is another question. So kind of opening up is happening with the new education policy, when government speaks about allowing foreign universities to set shop here. But again, a lot more structural building blocks need to be in place to attract talent from across the world. It's not only our own youngsters doing for India, it's also the healthy interaction with people from across. So other developed regions like Canada, Australia, UK all have incentivization to attract startups from other parts of the country. So they even arrange funding, provide citizenship, and make the visa process much more easier if that innovation is going to help their ecosystem. So this is another area as a country we need to look at. And this we spoke about, the balance of open innovation and intellectual property protection. And we also spoke about the globally top class universities. Again, thanks to Government of India, this institution of eminence status, a good step in the direction. It has identified about 20 institutes with the potential to become eminent, but 20 is too small a number for a country like India. Probably we need 200 in the next 5 to 10 years. But how do we do that? How do we prime this pump is much to be desired again. So again, the third part of the discussion, we'll be looking at the drivers and enablers which power this. The ecosystem should evolve further to solve the problems of the world and not just Indian challenges. As I said before, it's not enough our startups look at our own challenges. While there is a market size, but it will not help them to become a $1 trillion company or a $1 billion company. And so there is a need to look at solving global issues. It's not just for Indian, but many times when our youngsters approach us for support, they even not even talk about the country, they just talk about the campus, they talk about the problems prevailing in the campus. While it is okay to think in this direction in the starting stages, but eventually, are you going to have this constrained mindset or open it up for moving across the world? So again, the point to ponder is we cannot simply copy the value models. Wherever people try to just copy, it has been a catastrophic failure. We need to adopt, evolve, and improve to our own requirements. There is also a definite need for distinguishing the roles of innovators and entrepreneurs in a startup. By and large, all the innovators think they could do the startup, where at times we need to have a line of separation if needed. Very few cases where we see innovators becoming entrepreneurs. So the team building constraint is also removed, where the innovators think that it's a secret sauce and they would like to keep it to themselves, and they do not want to give away stakes or involve other capable people in the team to grow the venture. So this is a cultural issue which needs to be addressed, and building for the market is more important. Many times it is the passion or the flavor of the season that drives the motivation of the entrepreneurs, but what market needs need to be understood from the day one, before the prototypes are done and the batch production starts. Otherwise, there is a definite disappointment awaiting. While the government programs have ensured the capital adequacy velocity in the startup stages, the growth funding, again, there are gaps, especially the post-incubation scenario. But we are also aware that agencies like Technology Development Board is launching schemes to address this gap, where the growth funding is going to be available. But this is going to be very, very competitive and market-driven. Being agile and nimble also have helped many startups to, that way, I think we are in an advantageous position. Most of these developed ecosystems, somebody needs a minimal of $1 million even to start a business, whereas in $1 million, our people are capable of taking the product to the market in a 1.5 to 2 year runway. This could be achieved, and we have a strong ground here, but we need to again strengthen that further. And there is also a need for seamless integration of services and value-added services, which aligns with the stage of the startup. So for an early stage startup in an incubator, the needs are different. For a growth stage, a mature startup, the needs are different. So there is also a continuous value addition in terms of the relevant and appropriate service support from the incubation systems, and no needless to say that the market needs and challenges require utmost attention for startups to succeed. And finally, again, how do we instill confidence and make these execution capabilities? Passion is fine, idea is fine, but when it comes to action and comes to decision making, again, a good amount of capacity building initiatives need to be done. So this is my brief this morning on the three aspects. One, the current status quo in terms of the ecosystem, and the lessons from the emerged ecosystems, and what we need to do as catalytic and driving activities to power this further. So thank you for the opportunity. In case if we have time, I'm open for a few questions. Thank you, Dr. Shivkiran.
Thank you very much, sir. We had two questions, in fact. One question is, one of the person by name Naidu wants to know what is the successful startup trend currently. I don't know what the question means. Maybe what I understand from this is he is expecting 1 or 2 questions, but how the successful startups have trended in recent times.
Okay. Again, to quote from our own personal examples, if somebody is succeeding or not succeeding, again, as I mentioned in the last point, it is the execution capability. Somebody would have been in a position to identify a good market opportunity, innovate around it, and also raise some initial funding, the grants or seed funding. But post that, it is the single most ability is the execution of this plan as it was envisaged. So that's where the person who's succeeding or not succeeding is defined. And execution also is again powered by the composition of the team, how well-rounded it is, whether it is just a techie founder or whether there is a person who's also a business development person and who's also ability to navigate regulatory and market challenges, raise funding. So technology is just 10% of any successful business. The other 90% elements many times are ignored, and it's a costly way of ignoring. Yeah.
Okay. Good, sir. There's one more question from Pawan Gupta. Hi, sir. Please share the info that any workspace provided by the universities for startups for small scale production. So he is looking for small scale production. Basically, I believe he's our startup from Vizag. So he has got patented device, water testing, water control device. So he's looking at a space for small scale production in the university setup. Is there such facility or such provision anywhere?
I mean, since it's a generic question, my response would be you need to identify while university or a campus provides you the early start of a variety of resources. Providing production setup may not be the priority of university systems. Of course, in areas like biotechnology and some manufacturing areas, there are attempts to create at least a small batch production facility. But I would suggest you to look at places like AMTZ in Vizag, where such comprehensive production facilities are made available. Hubli also, this Deshpande startups have, at least for the electromechanical production systems, 3D printing and PCB production. So you could leverage those facilities, and there are also several central government agencies with massive production capable facilities. You have this MSME tool rooms across the country. Bhubaneswar has one, Hyderabad has one, Central Institute of Tool Design, CIPERTS. So most of them have the production grade facilities. You need to plug into the nearby system and make advantage of it.
To that, adding to that, Dr. Bala's point, Pawan, we being agriculture rural setup incubation center, so universities definitely will not have that commercial angle, production angle, but we have alumni donated space, 5 acres of alumni donated space to the university. That is actually an independent trust run by alumni themselves. So that's an independent body. We had made a collaboration with them. It's called Anandpur Development Initiative Foundation. So it is established by the alumni of SK University, and Atal Incubation Center and Adi Foundation have come together. This is a gap we are trying to plug, especially for agri startups. See, if agri startup wants to grow half an acre of some crop to test something, it's difficult for them to do processing near the growing area. So we have the small production unit. It's a batch wise. It's only for piloting, not for again production. It's just a pre-production and testing stage. So if you are expecting that kind of thing, even incubation centers like AMTZ for medical devices and Atal Incubation Center at SKU for agriculture, many such you can explore, right? But production at university levels, I don't know. It's not be a part of the framework because it's a commercial entity. It will be conflict with the academic institutes, right? So I think, Dr. Bala, I think these are the questions we have for you today. Okay. And thank you for being here, sir. It's first of all, post Pongal, you were all busy, and first the date was changed again, and you also consented for the change date. And very very happy that you have captured the status quo of the incubation ecosystem in the country. That was really amazing. So stay with us, sir, throughout the session if you have time. Visit our stalls.
Right.
have a look at the technologies our startups have developed, right? So, and I thank ISBA, for letting you be here.
Right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Uh,
Shivkaran, and